Hey, Leslie, good morning.
Good morning, Brent.
Yeah, excited to be talking with you today. This has been long in coming. We've talked for probably 6 months since we started work with SchoolStatus on your more strategic approach to customer success. I've enjoyed learning more about how you think about using those customer check-in calls strategically, not just for implementation, and also this idea of, the customer success team as sort of the conductors of the strategy. And so wanted to just have the opportunity for this morning for you to share with our audience what a more strategic approach to customer success means to you.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Brent. Happy to discuss it with you. The school status way of CS and, just kind of my outlook on it is it's always driven by value. So regardless of how we are strategic or we segment our customers, we're always tracking towards value, and value for each customer is different, right? We can have an idea, what the ideal customer profile value is, but ultimately we can't know unless we are meeting with them on a regular basis, doing our customer check-ins to make sure that we understand deeply what they're trying to accomplish so that we can be that, and I hate to use the term trusted advisor, but we can be that partner with them so that as they reach their goals, so does school status, and it's mutually beneficial.
Yeah, no, I love how you said that. I mean, we all know you can build your ICP and you can build your positioning framework and you can build your capability stories and your success stories, but the value for every customer emerges from the conversation.
Exactly.
And I know you have built into your overall customer success process this idea of a customer check-in call, CCI, which is designed, my understanding, to come back to that value. Would love to share more on how you help your team make that strategic and make the overall process more strategic as a result.
Yeah, yeah. So, I came to customer success via support, via implementation and training, operations. And so the terminology customer success didn't even exist back then. But that's basically what we were doing. It was making sure that we were listening to the customer, understanding how they use our products and services, and making sure we were delivering that value. So the theme, if you will, for our customer check-ins, and I named it customer check-in because I don't necessarily subscribe to the quarterly business review, not to knock it for anyone else, but some customers want to meet more frequently than quarterly, some less frequently. Maybe you have 10 customer check-ins a year, but you have 4 with one particular buyer, and then you have 5 with another point of contact in the customer organization. So it's not a one size fits all. It's not 4 times a year. It's as many times as the customer needs. And that's why it's called the customer check-in. But the theme that drives our check-ins is the philosophy of REAP. And that's my acronym, that is relationship building through empathy, active listening, and prospecting continually. So all of those build on one another, right? You can't come out of the gate prospecting, right? You've got to build that relationship. Relationships have to be built on empathy. You cannot possibly deliver value for a customer unless you truly understand what it's like for them day to day, using your product, using your service in their organization. And you can't be empathetic unless you're actively listening, right? It's easy to have an end goal in mind as a customer success manager, or, just in life. Like, you ask the question, but you're thinking about what the answer you want them to give. And that's not active listening, right? You're listening organically for what they have to say. And if that leads you down this path, well, you better go down that path. And if it leads you down another one, then as a CSM, it's your job to be agile and to follow down that path. So we really want to be strategic in listening to our customers so that we can identify those themes where we go, this is an expansion opportunity, and now I'm going to go down that path. And maybe it's not. Maybe you're not delivering the original value that you thought that you were. So we're going to go back to the empathy. We're going to skip the P and go back to the E so that we can really make sure we're delivering on that original value before we start looking for other opportunities of expansion.
Yeah, great. I love the REAP acronym, and I won't even rephrase what you said because it was crystal clear, which is awesome. And so let's talk about that. You know, some CS teams think about an account health scorecard or dashboard, right? To sort of anchor the idea of, did we accomplish what we said we were going to accomplish before we go on? At SchoolStatus, do you have a concept of that? Like, these are the things we're going to check in on in that check-in, so we know if there's a expansion discussion to be had?
Yeah, definitely. So we use various tools like a CRM, Salesforce. We use a customer success platform called Churn Zero that you can build a help score and be able to identify areas where either, you know, depending on what you build into your churn score, but we've built things like utilization, active days, net promoter score, things of that nature. Even support tickets can be considered. So you've got support tickets that have been open for a long time with no resolution. Those are the things that you want to make sure that you're addressing in your health score. And one of the biggest components of our health scoring is, you guessed it, customer check-ins, right? You cannot assume just because utilization is high that they're happy, right? Maybe they are actively looking for another solution, but they're going to use your product until they make that decision. I like to say that I've basically messed up every different way that you possibly can in customer success. And one of those ways is assuming that utilization means happy customer. We like to say at SchoolStatus, a quiet customer is an unhappy customer. Not always the case, but we like to assume the worst just in case, you know, if you haven't heard from them, oh, you better, that's going to make me real uneasy. So when I'm looking at my CSM's health scores and when I'm coaching them to look at their own, the number one driver is always, when was the last time you met with them? When was the last time you discussed their goals? And are you meeting with multiple people at that organization? You cannot build a Here's another reason, another way Leslie has messed up as a customer success situation is building a very deep relationship with someone that then leaves the organization, retires, you know, gets a promotion into another department, and this isn't their thing anymore. And so if you've only built a relationship with one or even two people, that can turn on a dime. So, you know, you've got to make sure, those are the biggest drivers that I'm coaching all the time, is expanding multiple contacts and talking to them frequently.
Nice. And so there's, in the account health dashboard, it sounds like there's both quantitative, utilization, frequency, time to resolution of tickets, but then these qualitative. And do they actually on the account track a check-in date and how many relationships? So that's kind of part of the account health score.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And we actually have a really qualitative measure called customer temperature. On each customer check-in, as they're filling out their post-check-in report, there is a question that says, what's the temperature? And it's completely subjective, right? And the options are fantastic, happy, tepid, oof, and then negative. I don't think we ever get one that's that bad, but I read every single one that comes through. It comes over my email and I read it. And the first thing my eyeballs go to is that temperature. Completely subjective, but if you're a good CSM and you're listening and you understand this customer, you know if it's fantastic, happy, or tepid. So my eyeballs go to that one first. They read that and then they go back to the top, and it hopefully will say fantastic or happy. If it says tepid, then I'm really reading those notes to understand, okay, why is it tepid? And I'm immediately reaching out to those CSMs and going, okay, you know, what do you think is the best path to get them from tepid to happy and then fantastic? What's the crux of the problem here? And it could be any number of things. And so I rely on both qualitative and quantitative in assessing a customer health score.
And what were it was tepid. What was the middle one?
Happy.
happy to fantastic.
Fantastic.
Curious, do you also I love this idea of, did you talk about their goals?
Mhm.
Is that do you measure that within the account health score? In your last call, did you talk about their goals?
Yeah, it's not measured in our health score, but it is an item both in our customer check-in slide deck and our customer check-in form. So we have a set form that a CSM fills out at the conclusion of their check-in, and it specifically asks those questions. What were their previous goals? There's an explicit question: are we meeting those goals? End of story. And maybe we did meet their past goals, but we can't stop there, right? I mean, let's set new goals. So then the next box is, well, what are their future goals, upcoming goals? Maybe it is expansion into using our product in other departments. Maybe it is they started with maybe a pilot of a few schools, and we're in ed tech, so they want to expand to more schools. Whatever those upcoming goals are, we want to make sure we're tracking those, and then those become the benchmark, right? And then in our next check-in, we're going, okay, did we meet those goals? And then what are the next ones? So we're always tracking goals.
Love it. You have this idea on this. Well, let's actually connect the account health scorecard now to the earlier part, the REAP, which ends with prospecting. If you built a relationship, you demonstrated empathy, kind of, am I achieving your goals? You're actively listening for what do we do next? And now there might be an expansion opportunity. How do you think about, I mean, presumably there is just going in, there's more. Some accounts are bigger, probably more white space. Just thinking, how is a segmentation of account potential? How does that play in to this customer check-in? So your team's using their time well.
Sure. Yeah. Well, we're always tracking total addressable market, right? Whether it's companion products, we have multiple product lines at SchoolStatus now. Looking for those areas of expansion, then also upgrades, upsells within our own product line. So obviously you've got your high touch customers who are big already, right? They already have a very big spend, and whether it's a lot of users, a lot of students, but then you see the potential for expansion of products. They're obviously going to be one of our top tier accounts in our segmentation, right? That's what we would call a platinum. So a platinum is someone that has a total addressable market of either 100% in an increase in rev, or a significant dollar amount, depending on the size of the customer. So obviously we're tracking those pretty closely, but we're also not focused solely on the dollar amount, but the value. We always go back to the value, right? In customer success, you are in sales, right? You are looking for sales opportunities at all times. That's part of the prospecting, but you're not looking for sales that aren't the right fit. So just because somebody's a platinum and there's a huge upsell opportunity or a cross sell of another product, if it's not right, then it's not right. And they may stay in platinum simply because they already have a large spend, but we may remove that expansion opportunity just because it's not the right time, it's not the right fit. So we're not going to force it.
Yep. What are the buckets other than platinum?
Yeah, so they're real creative, Brent. They're platinum, gold, silver, and bronze. And so it just is a tier based on their current spend and their total addressable market of cross-sell, upsell.
So it's based on current spend and total potential.
Correct.
Yep. And I know at one point there was some clever discussion of members of your team that I heard about on, some of those folks that may be in bronze. We want to serve them. We probably can't devote as much time, but I think they had developed some kind of group-based, like more class-based, right? You could join a class and get some support. How do you think about that? Kind of just the ones with lower potential that you still want to serve well, some of the delivery mechanisms for those.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you never know where a referral can come from. And we have been blessed at School Status to grow by organic referrals. When our customers do move to another organization, they often bring School Status with them. So, um, you don't want to completely give your bronze to the self-service department, right? So at School Status, every account gets a CSM, right? Now we know that they may not require as many touches, but really our baseline is a customer check-in every quarter. That's the bare minimum. So even our bronze customers are going to get a check-in every quarter. It's just that's the base, right? Our golds and platinums, they're going to get more check-ins than once every quarter. But we do offer some what we would call it group webinars. We do a webinar Wednesday series, which is designed to, it's one Wednesday a month, designed to offer training, best practices. Sometimes we have customers on there that kind of offer their success stories. I use School Status for this particular feature and it was really effective for me. And so we invite everyone, whether it's bronze, platinum, whomever, to those webinars because it's a great place to hear from the community. Community is a big driver of customer success when you're part of something and you don't feel like you have to go it alone. So between that, we offer 24/7 customer support at School Status for every tier, right? We don't look at bronze, platinum, any of that when we're doing our customer support. So our knowledge base, we have an online learning lab that we've built that is module-based training that is on demand. You can take it as you need. And our larger customers do get a little bit more customized training, right? They're going to get an implementation manager who is going to be doing a lot more in-depth training, but we don't want to leave our bronze, I guess, to only a self-serve. So we do offer those live webinars and then additional training for them as well.
Yep. And curious just to say a little bit more on the segmentation piece about the gold and silver and differences across the account segmentation. Is the custom training for platinum and gold or just platinum, or where does that come in?
Well, it's funny you
Typically.
ask because we're undergoing some packaging exercises in our current offering. And what we've done is evolved into an essentials and a pro, which is, the way of the SaaS world these days. You've got your kind of basic package and then you've got your expanded package. So we do offer a live training to every single customer, regardless of size. It's just the number of trainings, subsequent trainings after that are going to increase as your tier increases. And then now with our pro package, we're going to offer more one-on-one training with your implementation manager. Of course, we'll offer the ability to purchase training if that's something that you want at any level. But training is so important, right? You cannot assume that your customers have time to take your webinar training or your module based or read all of your help articles, right? We're all busy. And I need to know what I need to know so I can get going and start using the product as soon as possible. So it really behooves a customer success organization to offer, include training, at least a baseline, and you can add on to it from that. And in our CS organization, implementation managers and that whole team is part of the CS organization. It's not broken out. So we really work together to make sure that it's not a training issue that is affecting their churn risk or their lack of utilization. In fact, that is a question on our customer check-in report is, do they need training? Is that a reason that they're tepid? Is that a reason they're not meeting their goals? They simply aren't using the product effectively. So we're keeping a close eye on that and consulting with our implementation managers, to make sure that we are training our customers effectively.
Yeah, cool. Well, other kind of differences in the gold and the silver, just kind of curious, trying to get a sense of how to understand better the platinum and bronze, but some of the other differentiation there.
Yeah, they're just right in the middle there, Brent, right? It just depends on the total spend and the total addressable market that's out there. And look, that's the way we segment really more for the expansion, not necessarily for customer health and your day-to-day goings on. That's really your segment. You want to know that segment before you go into a check-in, as you're tracking and looking at your KPIs and metrics throughout the month, that let me just keep a little bit closer eye on my platinums and make sure that, of course, they're meeting their goals, because you lose, one of those churns and it's a pretty big hit. Not to say that you churn some of the little wins, it doesn't add up, but you really got to make sure that you're doing your job for those platinums. And then obviously also for your golds and your silvers, just kind of a step down each time.
Yep. And it makes sense that you're going to offer the same level of support 24/7. People want to come to you, quarterly check-in to everybody. There's probably some of these bigger accounts that we are a little bit more proactively monitoring to make sure that, we're secure, we're meeting their value. So they're going to renew, which would be the basis of expansion. That makes a lot of sense. I had just one last question. This idea of that I love of yours as the CSM as the conductor, right? As you anchor on value, and think about expansion. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts to meet customers' needs, and then look at the next thing. So, would love to hear more about that. What does that mean to you, and how does it play out in practice?
Right. So I used to refer to a CSM more as a quarterback. Sometimes you run the ball yourself, sometimes you throw it to a teammate, but ultimately you're calling the plays. But then I read Donna Weber's book, Onboarding Matters, and she explains it as an orchestra, you're a conductor of an orchestra. And I thought, well, that really makes more sense in an everyday scenario, because everybody's going at the same time, right? You've got training going, you've got support going, you've got sales going, expansion, and you got to get all those people all playing together so that you're making some beautiful music for the customer. If you've got support that's not, doing their part, it's going to sound off. If you've got an implementation manager that's not doing theirs. So the CSM, while they're not necessarily they're not the boss, right, of these other departments, but it is in their interest to make sure that everyone is aligned. And so we meet frequently across departments, and between our support team, we're tracking those customers who are having a rough onboarding, right? Like, what is the problem? Is it the wrong personnel we're dealing with? Is it a data problem? Like, what is it? And so while implementation is very much in the hands of the implementation manager, the CSM really needs to know what's going on at any given time. They need to know about the incoming sales that are coming in and what's the value proposition that the salesperson has been discussing, so that we can make sure from day zero, right? Before the customer even steps through the door, we already know what their goals and objectives are, so we can start aligning towards that. So the conductor is that they are conducting an orchestra of internal resources and sometimes external resources, right? Because you've got the sales champion, you've got the technology person who's integrating the SaaS, who's doing the SSO and things of that nature. You've got the professional development person who might be coordinating training. So you're both orchestrating the customer experience internally and externally. So there's your conductor.
Yeah, I love it. And does the conductor analogy vary at all as you go up? No, just the intensity of the music, maybe.
Probably so. Maybe the number of instruments in the orchestra.
I love that. The number of instruments in the orchestra, having played the viola very badly for 6 years. I still was part of a
0 instruments. So it's funny that I chose a musical analogy.
Well, it does actually suit better because it's continuous, right? Quarterbacking, most sports are stop start. This is continuous through so I love that about it. One last question I heard from another CS leader we've interviewed as part of this series. They actually have the CS people join late stage conversations before they close to meet the economic buyer and develop a relationship, right? Because then sometimes it's hard to get the economic buyer back. I don't know if that's something you guys have ever considered, or maybe do that, or
Yeah,
get involved early on.
yeah, we actually have a stage just before close that we include part of our implementation team and our integrations team. We have somewhat of a depending on the complexity of the data, right? We've got to integrate a school district's data. And so we want to get in early on that conversation to make sure that, one, it's possible, and two, the value proposition is there. So the CSM isn't actually on that meeting just yet, but they're reading the notes very closely to make sure that, okay, I already know what's going on. There is a handoff form between sales and the customer success team that lives in Salesforce, and it's there on the account record, so that the CSM, as soon as it goes into that stage just before close one, they're reading those notes to ensure that, okay, I know what I'm up against, so to speak. I know what this customer is about. I have a picture of them before they even enter into the door.
Cool. Leslie, great stuff.
Thanks.
Really exciting to hear today. Thank you so much for joining this morning.
Sure thing. Happy to help and contribute, and love talking with you, Brent. And we didn't have Kevin on the call today, but awesome conversations with Kevin, and just that value revenue playbook has been a really good experience.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Take care.